Welcome to Speaking with the Experts. Join us as we sit down with industry leaders to break down complex topics, making them simple and accessible for everyone. Stay informed and empowered with expert insights brought to you by leading Australian cryptocurrency exchange, Elbaite. Get started today with flexible solutions that let you trade your way.
Today we're speaking with Effie, the CEO of Australian digital dollar stablecoin, AUDD. Effie brings in a wealth of knowledge and experience in financial technology, so we're very lucky to have her, and she is at the forefront of advancing stablecoins in Australia. So, welcome to the video series today.
Thanks, Samira. Good to be here.
Thank you for speaking with us today. So, let's start at the very beginning, the vision behind AUDD. Can you explain to us the purpose, the reasoning behind bringing out Australian digital dollar stablecoin?
Absolutely. I hope I don't ramble too long because I love the history of payments in Australia and also in fintech in the last couple of decades. So for me, I was working with Elbaite Group, which is a fintech company publicly listed on the stock exchange, and I was involved in payments for almost a decade. And predominantly in alternative payments. And the alternative payment space for me was very interesting because what it was doing was solving real world solutions for companies that were sort of on the outer of the traditional banking system. What I mean by that is high risk industry sectors as termed by the traditional sector banks. So high risk being, let's start with the ones that people are familiar with, adult, forex, gambling, but of course crypto crept into that, in the late, about 2017 or so, probably a little bit earlier, but that's when it was really hitting the news and the media about crypto, Bitcoin volatility started happening, and so it was a very interesting space to be in that alternative payment space, not only in Australia but globally. And so being at that forefront of trends in having things like voucher-based payments, prepaid cards, QR code payments, barcode payments, even before that before smartphones, there were payments for people in Africa who used SSID, which was basically enter a digit code so that you can receive your payment. Mobile wallets, digital wallets, all that stuff was what I was involved with Elbaite. And so the intersection between what was happening in alternative payment space and the crypto space was really quite exciting. And it was obvious that people were trending and moving towards there. And at the time, we were dealing with a prepaid product called FlexiFin, which was an on-ramp mechanism for crypto exchanges to be able to offer their customers a top-up mechanism to get into the system. Because as we will discuss, I'm sure, a little bit more at length, is about how difficult it is to deal with crypto exchanges in the traditional banking system. So we were already offering a solution that was offline, so there was an opportunity to actually say, well, actually, there's a better way, and crypto was leading the way, and Bitcoin was leading the way to offer those better ways via blockchain technology. And so that's where we started leaning towards what can we do in the alternative payment space in the blockchain technology. So that's the genesis, and I can go into more detail, but I'm sure you want to ask more questions before.
Yes, that's the exact background that I think our viewers would appreciate, as Australia has always had a history of being at the forefront of financial technology, mobile payments, we were online payments even, we were the leading country to adopt this, right? Australia is primed to be a digital adopter. We are a highly educated society with technology accessible for most of the population. And so it's very natural that we would see companies that were innovating in financial technology transition and exploring blockchain innovation as well. So I love Elbaite's background in that. So that was, it's quite important to touch on that. So I wanted to understand, from your perspective, Australian digital dollar stablecoin is that word, stablecoin. It's very specific. It's a very specific type of cryptocurrency, and I think it's important that we define what that is. So, in your own words, what is a stablecoin, and specifically Australian digital dollar stablecoin? How does that differ from other forms of cryptocurrencies?
Sure. So a stablecoin is exactly that. It is a stable mechanism for a currency to be backed with another asset. So it could be backed with a stable asset like a sovereign currency, like a dollar, which the Australian digital dollar is. It's an Australian dollar stablecoin backed by Australian fiat dollars in reserve bank accounts.
Yeah.
And so there are those types of stablecoins. Now there are other stablecoins backed by other stable assets like gold or other commodities like oil or silver or other bits and pieces. And then there are algorithmic stablecoins. There are a number of flavours of stablecoins. But today, in terms of Australian digital dollar, we're talking about a fiat-backed stablecoin, the Australian digital dollar. So, as an Australian company, an Australian digital dollar, we felt it was important to ensure that the monies were also based in Australia, so backed in Australia for reserves. And I'm sure we'll go into a little bit more about that in terms of security and trust for consumers and users and businesses. So why is it different to cryptocurrencies? Cryptocurrencies are volatile. So, if I buy a Bitcoin today, it's not the same value as it is tomorrow, or in 5 minutes' time, or in 10 minutes' time. So the stablecoin basically says if you've got $1, you exchange your 100, let's say $100 Australian for 100 Australian dollar stablecoin, then it's 1-to-1. And you are going to be able to redeem it for a $100 stablecoin if you come back to us, the issuer, to redeem that stablecoin. So basically what we're saying is you know what your cryptocurrency is worth, or your digital asset is worth. There is no volatility. If you look at Bitcoin, it goes like this. If you look at stablecoins, they go like that. Right? And so you would have seen things like depegging events and other things that seem to say that is a stablecoin really stable, and that basically is dependent on secondary markets. What we're talking about here today is a primary market. What I mean by that is, as AUDC, the issuer of Australian digital dollar, AUDD stablecoin, if you are purchasing or engaging with getting access to an AUDD from us, you are guaranteed that you have 100 or the equivalent of your $100 or your 1-to-1 directly redeemed by us. So it remains stable because we don't do anything messy with your funds. They are segregated. They sit there, not costing anything, not losing anything, and not being played with to make money on the markets or anything like that, because it's not something that Australia allows.
Yeah. So. Well, thank you for breaking that down. I think it is really important that we do differentiate. Of course, we have different flavors of stablecoins, as you did say. It's unfortunate that in the news, the algorithmic stablecoins have taken over people's understanding of what is and can be a stablecoin. And unfortunately, we have seen some of these algorithmic stablecoin, because of just, I guess, the risk and the technology behind it, has gone into these unfavourable scenarios like depegging. So it is still important that we keep on ramping up the idea that there's alternative types of stablecoins, the original types of stablecoins, which is just meant to be as a method that you can interact with the blockchain technology without, adding a forex or a cryptocurrency price fluctuations, right? You're just participating in the blockchain world, in the digital world, using a currency that you're already familiar with, right? So is it possible?
Sorry to interrupt you there, Samira, and that's the part that I find that's very important for, especially for people who haven't engaged in the cryptocurrency industry or digital assets before. Jumping in to something like, I have to get in on this trend of this, Dogecoin or this Zebu coin or whatever other coin. You don't really know what you're getting into. It's really simple to get into a stable coin because, and people should always do their due diligence and make sure it's a fiat-backed stable coin. And why I say make sure it is, I'm just suggesting if you are going to get an Australian dollar stablecoin and you want to have a first entry into it, it's easy to understand. I've got $1, I'm getting $1, I spend $1, it's easy, I understand this.
Yes.
It becomes an easy way, as you said, to start interacting in that digital economy on the blockchain. It's transparent. We'll go into all the beautiful features about stablecoins, which are similar to other digital assets and cryptocurrencies. But the fact that I can see that my dollar is a dollar is a dollar is a dollar is amazing, and it makes it easy for users to understand and get into the ecosystem rather than being bamboozled with what this Bitcoin stuff is, right?
Yeah.
It's exciting, but what is it?
Perfect. So I think maybe we should kind of also touch on the difference between maybe the ideologies around traditional cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum versus what AUDD is trying to be as a stablecoin. Would you surmise the difference as one is seen as a speculative type of trading and one is just merely for function?
Yeah, and that's a great point, because when we initially, so AUDD wasn't our actual first entree into stablecoin. We had a little bit of a history of wanting to get in on sort of a little bit of the hype, and then it became clear that you don't get in on the hype. You have to have utility for a stablecoin. And so initially we were terming the coin a utility token, right? Because we're saying, well, this actually has utility, and what is the utility? You can make payments, you can actually conduct commerce, you can conduct business on the internet. So that's why we initially were talking about it as a utility token. But you're quite right, it is not for an investment tool. It is not for speculation. It is not to be a cool kid on the block, right? It is all about having use cases and utility that enables, we'll say this a million times today, quick, easy, transparent, and very cheap way of doing trade and business online. So yes, you're quite right. It's certainly not something that you buy into because you want to make money. It's something that you get into because you want to make your business smoother, easier, faster, cheaper, better.
That's fantastic. I think one of the biggest things that the blockchain industry is thirsty for right now is more utility cases. So it is really exciting that you're driving the AUDD stablecoin in Australia as a utility case. So speaking about utility, we've recently partnered together. So we've got the Buy with AUDD. Please explain to us this partnership.
Beautiful, thank you. And yes, we're very excited about having Elbaite on board. One of the key things that people can now do with their stablecoin is basically take their existing stablecoin that they already hold, because many of our customers do ask us, well, what else can I do with my AUDD? Now we can say, okay, you can actually go and buy cryptocurrency at Elbaite. And the beauty of that is they're already holding their AUDD in a non-custodial wallet, and they can actually come to Elbaite, who also is a non-custodial exchange, and safely and easily on board with you guys, if they're not already on board it, and utilise their AUDD to buy the cryptocurrency of their choice. Now, what is one of the advantages of having people use AUDD? In the first instance, to purchase AUDD, they've already had to be verified. So what Elbaite is receiving is a pre-verified customer. Now, of course, due to our AUSTRAC requirements in Australia, your AUSTRAC requirements, you still have to do the verification. So what we then see is a customer who has utilised AUDD to purchase cryptocurrency has actually been verified twice. Now, where do you get that in the banking industry, right? You don't really get that in traditional rail systems. So we feel that it adds a few extra layers of security and comfort to the customer, that they're not engaging in something that is dodgy, if you like.
Yeah, exactly. And I think onboarding with the two platforms gives you two access points for questions. If you have trouble, you can ask either AUDD or Elbaite for any concerns that you may have during the whole process.
Yeah, and just to add to that, AUDD as an issuer doesn't actually enable customers and businesses and consumers to exchange anything other than AUD for AUDD. So that's why it's important to have people come to places like Elbaite, a trusted cryptocurrency exchange, to actually perform their transactions there, to get their other crypto assets that they're interested in for whatever reason it might be, whether that is as you said before, for investment purposes or speculative or whatever else they want to do.
Exactly. One thing that I did want to bring up around one of the reasons that we were excited to partner with AUDD is we think it's it's the perfect way that larger transactions can have a smoother experience. So traditionally with self-custody, right? You're not going to self-custody $100 of Bitcoin. Why would you bother? It's too much work to manage all of your private keys. The self-custody route has always been attractive for customers that are looking for that larger size investment, right? So, but when you do make the larger size payments from your bank account, you see a lot of friction. And then so you can go through a bit of time delays when you're trying to buy that large sum cryptocurrency. So for us, it was really important to make that execution time from the time of purchase order and to the time of you getting access to your cryptocurrency in your own wallet reduced and frictionless. And so for us, enabling AUDD deposits and purchasing meant everything was on-chain, everything was verifiable. So just bringing those higher volume transactions, be more transparent. And we're talking about $100,000 trade volumes. There's a lot of friction when you make a $100,000 payment from your bank account. And so when you make it through the blockchain, you'll have a smoother experience, a more transparent experience. You can understand exactly where that crypto has gone. And so that's why we were really motivated.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to note is whilst a customer accesses AUDD and then comes to Elbaite and deposits, let's take that $100,000 transaction, they actually haven't incurred, like you said, there are no bank charges there are no SWIFT charges there are no FX charges there, there's nothing, the extra bits of friction. I mean, I think I just pointed to 4 right there. Basically, they just say, here's my wallet, I put it on your wallet, and it's done, right? And then they're able to go, and then that wallet is going to buy BTC, done again, right? So it's a very straightforward, as you highlighted.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like the perfect partnership to bring that utility case really obvious, right, up to the forefront. Let's now dive into the current state of stablecoins in Australia. So there are a plethora of stablecoins out there. Majority of them are US based, right? So we've got USDT, USDC. Now with AUDD, what are the advantages that we can, I guess, leverage off of having an Australian dollar-backed stablecoin, and what's the difference?
Yeah, thanks. It's a great question, and we get asked that quite regularly because obviously USDT was the first one that came out to the market. USDC has that second mover advantage, and if you look at USDC and USDT and the companies that back them, Circle and Tether, you will see that there are differences in the way that they operate. So for starters, there's also differences in the flavours of the USD stablecoins and how comfortable people are. Now, in saying that, do consumers really care? Not really, right? They basically kind of go, can I make my transaction online easy or not? So from that perspective on US dollar stablecoins, they don't really care which flavour it is, as long as there's deep liquidity, as long as it's available, and as long as they can access it. Now, I then go back to, and our customers and our businesses go back to the following principle. Look in your wallet and go down the street and tell me if you have US dollars in your wallet and if you can make a payment to your shopkeeper or your shop owner with your US dollars, and the answer will be categorically no. So what is then the advantage of having an Australian dollar stablecoin? It's exactly that. It's what you have in your current ecosystem now. So if I'm a business in Australia, now I can accept payments in other currencies, but predominantly I'm doing business, paying my electricity bills and my rent and my suppliers and my staff in Australian dollars, because generally that's what businesses in Australia do. Now, when you start making payments across border, this is where it starts getting a little bit more interesting, because whilst you may utilise your Australian dollars to make payments in Australia, when you're making them outside, some of your suppliers might say, well, actually, I only get paid in USD, or I only get paid in Euro, or I only get paid in Japanese yen, or whatever else it might be. So that's where a stable coin in Australian dollars makes a massive difference. You do not have to worry about currency risk FX volatility and holding other currencies in bank accounts that today, again, very much like what we talked about with Bitcoin, they have some volatility against your Australian dollar. So whilst they're stable currencies, they aren't as stable when it comes to the US dollar against the Australian. You know, I recently wanted to buy some Japanese yen because it was over $1 and I wanted to travel to Japan, right? So that's the sort of thing that you can leverage when using an Australian dollar stablecoin. We'll talk about the benefits of cross-border payments and remittances and the efficiencies there in a sec, I think. So I'll leave it.
So now that we're getting into the topics of the global economy, and with the pace of digital currencies, stablecoins, and even central bank digital currencies, should we expect that each country will be coming out with their own stablecoins and central bank digital currencies, or do you expect a world where we're going to accept one or two?
I don't necessarily see a world where every country or every currency will have a stablecoin or a CBDC, a central bank digital currency. However, everybody's exploring it. So when I say everybody, if you look at all pilot projects around the world, you pick up things like, you know, Ghana's and El Salvador's and Singapore, all sorts of jurisdictions exploring stablecoin usage as well as central bank digital currencies. The majority seem to lean towards possibly not having a CBDC in the foreseeable future. And when I say foreseeable future, I'm saying, you know, in the next 3 to 5 years. Beyond 5 years, it's hard to tell. Is there a reason to do it? Maybe in volatile economies where they need a different way of managing their reserve sovereign currencies. But in most of the G7 countries, it's not something that is coming in the near future. And the preference seems to be that stablecoins will continue to proliferate. They could be from only private issuers like ourselves, New Circles and Utethers and those kind of issuers. But many banks have been experimenting with stablecoins as well, so we could see that. What's going to drive that is the larger use cases. We talked about having utility, and when you see Visa make announcements and MasterCard make announcements that they will start doing stablecoin settlements to merchants to enable faster transactions, that's when you will see that more utilisation of stablecoins will become prevalent in the global economy.
So one of my passions around blockchain technology, it started out with looking at developing nations. So for example, I'm from Afghanistan, and one of the inspirations that I always had was that blockchain technology can enable these developing nations and giving them access to 21st century financial technology straight away, just wiping away 30 years of work that they may have needed to do with traditional banking infrastructure. So in your eyes, do you see stablecoins playing a role in enabling developing nations?
Yes, Samira, I'm also very passionate about this, and my as I mentioned, my last decade of experience in the alternative payments sector saw me dealing with alternative payment methods that were solving those financial inclusion problems in emerging markets. And what were we talking about there? We were talking about villages who basically had no access to banking facilities, no access to a bank at all. They couldn't get a KYC or accounts because, you know, they were basically property of their husbands, for example. And so whilst they were farming and making money, they actually couldn't put that money or do anything with that money or get paid. And so what solutions we were providing for issues like carrying briefcases of money across borders was basically mobile money wallets, digital wallets that can be accessed via the mobile phone number. So the mobile phone carriers were acting as the pseudo banks. Okay, and so starting it from that kind of level, you progress to say, okay, well, that's one alternative way that you can help solve problems. But the blockchain, like you, as soon as blockchain started being more prolific in the financial economy, it was obvious that there were more roles for that to play. So yes, stable coins and digital currencies are important for your everyday trade that we are all familiar bit. But for financial inclusion purposes, they become even more important because it enables people to have access. If all they have is access to a smartphone, then they can have access to banking style services, to be able to be paid peer-to-peer, to be able to be paid via NFC, to be able to be supported for the work that they are doing and having value exchanged immediately and made available to them, rather than having to rely on very outdated and very lengthy processes to try to have access to some value. Now, in saying that, there is still the last mile problem we talk about, and it's actually the last meter problem that is the issue. So in countries where you may not be able to utilise a stablecoin in a wallet, what do? You still want to have access to currency. So you need to still be able to go somewhere and say, I actually need the cash for this. So that is engaging the distribution networks in local economies. So like your kiosks that are selling prepaid cards, or they're selling milk and bread, they can also, as long as they have some sort of terminal, they can actually provide you with that cash at that last meter. So that's also important. So when people say, why do I need a stablecoin in Australia? The answer is you don't need it for your day-to-day. You don't need it to go down and buy your coffee to do whatever you do. You can, however, use it. You can start moving into an economy which is totally digital. But if it's a need question, then the need question is always going to be answered from a personal perspective as no. From a business perspective, that need question changes, particularly when we're talking about cross-border and trade payments and trying to improve efficiencies in those kind of payments.
Speaking about AUDD and its adoption, what are you seeing some of the examples driving the demand for AUDD?
Yeah, so we've got a really interesting example of a company called MyBricks, and this is about fractionalising property to enable investment on a smaller scale, rather than buying $1 million property, to be able to buy a portion of that property. And so that client in particular uses AUDD as the only mechanism for customers to get involved in the investment. Why? Because it puts every piece of that process on the blockchain. So their technology, which is basically putting all of the contracts and titles and other things on the blockchain, then you also have a payment that's made by digital means rather than traditional mechanism, and so the whole process becomes totally transparent from end to end. So is that what it does? It reduces the customer's fears of where is my property, where is my money, who's holding it, where it's all on the blockchain. It becomes transparent. So that's one of the use cases that it's being used at the moment. Other more common use cases are in cross-border remittance type of environments, where you see either trade payments or even plain remittances, which tend to be in the higher volumes, take 4 to 5 days to reach their destination, take about anywhere between 4 to 6 intermediary banks to get to their destination. I'm sure you've got some particular examples yourself personally trying to get money across borders, but we have a case study that is available that basically highlights a $500,000 transaction taking 8 days to complete and 6 intermediaries in between, and a loss between the FX and the fees of $35,000.
Wow.
So that is what we have seen the use cases to be. Those kind of transactions can be made within minutes if everything is aligned and everyone's onboarded at all the right places, but it can be done as quickly as 1 day, maybe 2 parties. So one to actually onboard and one to actually offboard on the other end.
So security is often a major concern for investors, and especially with digital assets. What do stablecoin issuers do to ensure investor protection regarding backing and auditing processes?
Great question, because it's one of the key things that stablecoin issuers focus on, and why there's even been an association formed for global stablecoin issuers and participants to try to develop standards that can be met globally despite regulations across the world being different. So what we're talking about here is stablecoins issuers publishing terms of service. Terms of service outlining what exactly you can and can't do with your stablecoin, where the funds are being held, how we are showing the transparency. So some of those examples are you can produce audit reports or assurance reports that you publish on your website, and that basically are usually done by a third party, and an accredited auditor who's basically saying, yes, I can attest that the reserves backing the stablecoin that's listed on chain equals or exceeds in some cases. You can do on-chain reporting for your bank accounts as long as the bank accounts have API access, and you can do all of that. Then that can be done on site on your website. So there are other standards which talk about the redeemability and timeframes of redeemability. And all of the people who are part of this association publish these terms of service on their website and abide and comply with those. And we go to great lengths to be part of all the conversations. You and I have been in many rooms with regulators, with the industry, absolutely trying to highlight the importance of consumer protections and customer transparency, and so that is something that we've definitely brought into our operations, and so visiting our website you'll find all of that information is available there, and that's very much what other reputable stablecoin issuers do too.
Yeah, so when you're speaking about all that, I was just in the back of my mind going, I mean, those are endeavours that require a lot of participation from many stakeholders here. So Australia being one of those highly technical enabled nations, do you see that we have the technology to actually enable all of this assurance, especially the reserves? And also, do we have the participation with all the stakeholders needed?
Getting there. So yes is the answer. We do have the capabilities to do it as an industry as a whole, but it's a matter of if there were clearer regulatory guidelines, then it would be easier to be very transparent about here are the regulatory guidelines and here is how we conform. In the absence of that, the majority of stablecoin issuers try to abide by those principles as if that regulation was indeed there. In terms of the technology, the other beauty of stablecoin issuers is that they're generally not dealing with any technical debt or legacy technology. They've built all of the infrastructure on blockchain technology as its starting point. So you're not dealing with, if I do this, then I have to bolt something new on, like our traditional banking system tends to do. So from that perspective, yes, the technology is definitely there to enable it.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so that level of assurity, I guess, is inherently available, actually, which is a kind of new way of thinking. So do you see a bit of a synergy with AUDD, but stablecoins in general participating in AI technology? How do you see these two technologies working together?
I think in terms of stablecoin issuance itself, there is not much room for AI to play in that piece other than some automation. So I'm not going to talk about it as AI. There may be some machine learning, there may be some automations that can be improved and made better. Because we all are aware of things required like transaction monitoring and wallet investigation. All of those sorts of tools are currently available today, and those mostly are based on machine learning principles in the first instance. So I see that AI will play more of a role in its utility piece, so not necessarily in the issuance piece of stablecoin, but in the utility and the use cases that go on top of that. And what I mean by that is they will learn, when Effie buys AUDD, what she normally does is she then goes to Elbaite and deposits it there to purchase some Bitcoin. And so AI might start looking at that application that Effie's using and start doing some automated function and features there, and basically, do that investigation of, has there been something that's gone on the chain within those wallets that she's transferring money to, and stop her from doing it in the instant. So yes, I do see AI playing a role in this space. As stablecoin issuance per se, no. As stablecoin utilisation, yes. And in other stablecoins where they are yield generating, or you can stake it and do other things, then yes, there would be AI functions able to be enabled within that environment. There's probably some AI that can be put in place for security purposes, so enhanced security on the platform itself with AI capabilities. So yeah, I see that there are opportunities. I don't quite know them all yet. I do stay and remain open, and we all, do remain open to the potential.
Yeah, exactly. When I think about this topic, for me, it's just so apparent that there absolutely is a synergy, right? So AI is all about making decisions using data, right? But that's the key point. You need the data there available first.
Yeah.
With blockchain technology, that the data piece is what it's trying to do. It's giving access to data in a democratized way, in a public way, and also in a very transparent way. So blockchain gives that data piece that AI needs to make their decision making. So it's like the follow-up technology, I think.
Yes.
So absolutely we'll see a lot more synergies with these two technologies happening. So let's get into AI and stablecoins in general. What benefits can stablecoins bring, or maybe AI can bring into the cryptocurrency world?
Sure. So I think there's heaps of potential for AI to be involved in the stablecoin and cryptocurrency space. Being conscious of the fact that the cryptocurrency space has this aura or has this feel of, but hang on a minute, I'm in this space because I want things to be a little bit private. So what's AI going to, get involved in and do in this space? The importance of AI in this space can be actually back to the topic of security, assurance, and customer trust. And what I mean by that is utilising AI in producing reserve and audit reports, identifying behaviour for the customer that may be detrimental to their transaction. So knowing that they're automatically sending their money to a wallet that they shouldn't be sending it to, and being picked up at the early stage would be something that AI could potentially do. Other things that I see that AI could be involved with in the stablecoin space would be to add extra layers of security for transaction monitoring, for suspicious wallet activity, some of the KYC trends that we see that people are taking advantage of, picking up things like, oh, there was the Optus breach and my data has been used in this space, but AI would pick up that I would never do this kind of transaction and automatically stop it. So there are plenty of reasons that I see that AI will play a space in the cryptocurrency space. But I don't see from the stablecoin issuance that we'll see AI being involved in automatically saying, oh, I think Samira needs some stablecoin, let me send it to her. That's probably something that we won't see.
So finally, Effie, as a leader in the stablecoin space, what do you believe the future holds for AUDD and stablecoins in general? And what do you see are the greatest opportunities and perhaps even the current the biggest setbacks that we currently have?
We have a great vision for AUDD. We currently are the premier stablecoin in Australia, been in operation for a couple of years on a number of blockchains with various use case technology. We are on a growth path at the moment where we are getting more and more businesses and use cases utilising the Australian dollar stablecoin. If I were to look 5 years into the future, we'd love to see it replace, your bank account, if you like, because we do see a future where you do not necessarily, just like you don't necessarily have to have cash in your wallet today, and you can use the cards that are already loaded onto your phone to make payments. We see the same for an Australian dollar stablecoin interacting with other stablecoins as well, where you can participate in your day-to-day life with a stablecoin, but more importantly, being able to participate in cross-border and trade payments and other transactions. Stablecoin interoperability will be extremely important. So as every new player comes to market, which there will be, just like there are multiple US dollar stablecoins, I think there are over 100, you want to be able to say, if I've got $100, just like now with a $100 US bill, I can go and use that in any place imaginable. I want to know that that's the same with my PYSD and my USDT and my USDC. I want it to have utility across any interaction that I want to use my stablecoin at. So that will be the same for Australia. So if another stablecoin is built by a bank, for example, I want to be able to know that my AUDD and my bank-issued stablecoin is interoperable. So that's one of the things that we see in the future. We do see that there will be more stablecoins in general in the marketplace. So currently, US dollar stablecoins still dominate anywhere between 92 and 98%, depending on the day, of the world's stablecoin utilization, with all of the other stablecoins of GBP, JPY, AUD, all of those sit in a tiny little 2% of the market. So there's plenty of room to grow. There's plenty of space to play in this environment. It basically, as we said, the more utility, the more utilization, the more growth we'll get for AUDD. We do have many things on the roadmap that I can't quite go into just yet, but watch this space. We'll keep partnering with people like Elbaite and Mybricks, who I mentioned earlier, to bring interesting use cases to the market.
Yeah, fabulous. Well, thank you so much, Effie. As we alluded to at the start of the conversation, Australia has been the epicenter for innovative financial technology, and I really do believe solutions like Australian Digital Dollar Stablecoin is another example that we can have under the Australian belt of innovative financial technology that we have advanced. And so really, thank you so much for explaining all of that to our audience today. So if you haven't heard about stablecoins before, I'm sure now you are an expert, just as Effie is. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Amira.